James II was King of England, King of Ireland, and King of Scotland. He succeeded to the thrones of England, Ireland and Scotland following the death of his brother with widespread support largely because the principles of eligibility based on divine right and birth were widely accepted. He was the last Catholic monarch of England, Scotland and Ireland. His reign is remembered for conflicts over religious tolerance and struggles over the principles of absolutism and the divine right of kings. James served in the French army against the Fronde and their Spanish allies. He had his first experience of battle, in which he ventures himself and charged gallantly where anything is to be done. He was given command of the Irish regiment in 1652 and appointed lieutenant general in 1654. In the Spanish army, he became friendly with two Irish Catholic brothers Peter and Richard Talbot. In 1659, the French and Spanish made peace by the Treaty of the Pyrenees. James considered a Spanish offer to be an admiral in their navy. Ultimately, he declined. After becoming king, James faced rebellions led by the Duke of Monmouth and Archibald Campbell. Both began their expeditions from Holland. Argyll sailed to Scotland where he raised recruits the Campbells. The rebellion was crushed, and Argyll was captured and taken prisoner in June 1665. James ordered the death sentence. Monmouth raised recruits but was unable to gather enough to defeat James's small standing army. Monmouth's soldiers attacked the king's army at night but were defeated. Monmouth and 250 of the rebels were captured and executed. Both rebellions hardened James's resolve and increased his suspicion of the Dutch. In 1659 James promised he would marry Anne, who became pregnant in 1660. Although Anne's father urged the two not to marry, the couple married secretly. Their first child, Charles, was born less than 2 months later, but died in infancy. They had two daughters, Mary and Anne. James was fond of his children and his role as a father. James's wife was devoted to him and influenced many of his decisions. Even so, he kept mistresses. Anne Hyde died in 1671. James then married Mary of Modena, a 15-year-old Italian princess. James commanded the Royal Navy and directed the fleet towards the African coast that would facilitate English involvement in the slave trade. The office of Lord High Admiral, combined with his revenue from post office and wine tariffs, gave James enough money to keep a sizable court household. In 1672, the Royal African Company set up forts, factories, maintained troops, and exercised martial law in West Africa in pursuit of trade in gold, silver and African slaves. The RAC shipped more enslaved Africans than any other institution during the transatlantic slave trade. Many were branded on the chest with the letters DY for Duke of York. James advocated repeal of the penal laws in all of his kingdoms. He sent a letter to the Scottish Parliament declaring his wish for new penal laws, and Parliament passed an act that stated, whoever preached in a conventicle or a tent should be punished with death and confiscation of property. James sent a letter to the Scottish Privy Council advocating toleration for Roman Catholics. He allowed Roman Catholics to occupy the highest offices of his kingdoms. Roman Catholics made up no more than 1/50 of the English population. In 1687, James used his power to negate the effect of laws punishing both Roman Catholics and Protestant dissenters. He attempted to increase support for his policy by going on a speaking tour of Western England. James packed Parliament with his supporters. He instituted a purge of those opposed to his plan. James gave orders to provide 3 standard questions. 1. Would they consent to the repeal of the Test Act and the penal laws? 2. Would they assist candidates who would do so? 3. Would they accept the Declaration of Indulgence? Hundreds of those who gave negative replies were dismissed. King James II died September 16, 1701 at age 67 in Château de Saint-Germain-en-Laye, France.